Are you looking to refine your sales team and increase your company's revenue? Leading your sales team is an ongoing improvement process. Join Harry Newhan from Eric Lofholm International as he interviews top sales managers in the world. Discover the best practices that rocket them and their teams towards success. Boost your recruitment, motivation, and training techniques, leading you to build a top-producing, synergetic sales team. Welcome to CSI for Sales Managers.
All right, here we are. Harry Newhan here with continuous sales improvement for sales managers and best practices. And I've got a guest with me today, Wade Uhlenbrauck. And Wade is from Wisconsin. He's going to share a little bit about what he does and some of his best practices. We're excited to have him. Wade, thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Bassett Mechanical there in Wisconsin. So if you have a minute, of course you do, please tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background.
Yeah, you bet, Harry. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate you having me on and allowing me to represent Bassett Mechanical. I'll touch on a little bit about myself. I grew up here in Northeast Wisconsin, actually not too far from our corporate office. Went to school down in Milwaukee for college, and then ended up back here in Northeast Wisconsin for some professional opportunities with my job, and now have my wife and 3 teenage boys in the area. So life is very busy right now, but it's a ton of fun. Just a little bit about me and my background professionally. I've been with Bassett Mechanical for 16 years. And just to touch on Bassett Mechanical and who we are a full service mechanical contractor. So we do everything from the design of systems to the fabricating and manufacturing to the installing of those systems, and then also the servicing on the back end. And we've been in business for 85 years. This year, we're happy to celebrate our 85th anniversary. And we're in our 3rd generation of ownership. So Kim Bassett is our president and CEO. And we have 4 locations in Wisconsin. So we have our corporate office here in Kaukauna. We also have Milwaukee and Madison, and then one up in northern Wisconsin in Wausau. And my background and history with Bassett. So I came in and started as a sales representative at Bassett, and after a short time in that role was promoted into a sales manager role where I took over the sales representatives here at our corporate office. I was in that role for quite a while, and then went into a regional sales manager role where I then took over sales and all responsibilities for all the sales reps throughout the entire state. So did that for a while, really loved that role. It was very rewarding getting to know our different markets and the different people. But then most recently was promoted into the Vice President of Sales and Marketing, where now I manage our sales managers for each location and also our marketing team, along with the strategies and initiatives that we have going into each year. So a little bit about my background, but again, excited to be here.
No, appreciate that. That's an exciting career you have there. Before I go on, I want to know, are you a Green Bay Packer fan?
I am not only just a Green Bay Packer fan, but a season ticket holder.
A season ticket holder. There you go. So actually, the Green Bay Packers, you probably know this, they're one of the only teams that are actually on the stock exchange. You can actually buy stock in the company, right?
Absolutely. There's a lot of people that have it hanging on their wall in their offices. They're symbol of patriotism to their team. Yeah.
That's great. No, thank you so much for the background, and it's exciting that your development and your growth through your whole career, right out of college, to start at the bottom, so to speak, and work your way up. That's not easy to do, and not a lot of people actually stick it out that long. So congratulations on that. And this is perfect actually for our topic today, because you've got experience at every level of the growth process into the sales management. Now you're managing the managers. So let's start off with our first question here on the topic. As a sales manager and vice president, what do you feel is the most important thing to do in management as a whole?
Yeah, really as a whole, I would sum it up in one area, or really one word, and that would be around culture and sales culture. And I'll kind of break that down a little bit. I've always believed that really there's three things that you need to do as a sales manager and a sales leader in your company. One is to make sure that you build the right culture. So build that culture, hire to that culture, and then also make sure that you live that culture every day, especially when everybody is looking to you as that leader. And so really, what makes a great sales culture? What makes you be able to do those three different areas? The first one really is communication. That's one of the big keys that we have here at Bassett. And mind you, it's very easy to follow a sales culture when you have a company like Bassett and the leadership at Bassett behind you to build a culture like this. But communication is that first one. It's really about consistent conversation, consistent strategizing. A high performing team is one that wants to be in constant dialogue and be talking about opportunities and how to take those next steps. A second one would be have a documented, structured sales process. And you might say, well, what does the sales process have to do really with that overall sales culture? Well, your sales managers and especially your sales individuals need that process to follow. And although they need to be their own person and put their own spin on things, use their own personality, it's really important for them to be able to come back to a process that is solid and that's tried and true and that your company really follows. And I've always used the adage of your sales process has to be kind of the backbone of what you always come back to. So if sales reps start to stray off here or there, which we've seen them do over the years, and they do, they have big personalities. You can always bring them back to kind of the nuts and bolts of what that process is. And then two more things that I would say along with that with this that fit under the culture category. One would be set stretch goals and manage to them. Uh, we what we want to do is try and put bigger goals out there and try and work with that sales rep, work with them every week, every month, and try and attain those goals. So if you put that stretch goal out there, maybe they'll be able to actually hit their budget, or maybe they can get out to that stretch goal, but you want to manage to those. And then lastly, I've always felt it's very important. I always make sure that my people feel that it's very important, but have fun. We have to have fun in this business. Salespeople are usually a personality that like to have that fun along with it. So, do we work hard? Absolutely. Do we spend a lot of time strategizing and talking about opportunities? Absolutely. But we have to have fun along the way. So we do things like we have a bell outside of our sales manager's office where if we have a big sale, you go up and you ring that bell and everybody around you hears it and they all wonder what's going on. We start our sales meetings with maybe everybody has to go around and just share a funny story about themselves. It's just a good way to connect, but we always have to make sure that along with the grind, that you also have fun along with it. So those are the areas that I would say would fit under that word culture.
Those are really cool. You remind me of a couple of things. The one on the documented structure. I have a phrase that's a pet phrase of mine. Documentation beats conversation every single time. So
Yeah,
if you document it, it's easy for people to follow it. They can stick to it, and you don't have to rely on he said, she said, we said, they said. So that's
right.
good. And then the other one you mentioned, as far as the going back to the fundamentals, it reminded me of sports because until you can become a champion or become successful, you've got to know the fundamentals of the game that you're playing. And by getting back to the basics, getting back to those fundamentals, it's so true. I mean, you hit it so clearly. As far as any business should have some kind of fundamentals, the backbone that you mentioned there. So very, very good, excellent. Let's move on to the next one. Thank you, by the way.
You bet.
The next one is, how about recruiting? What do you feel? Because you mentioned you recruit or hire to that culture.
Mhm.
So let's talk about recruiting advice. What do you think a best practice or a best idea on your recruiting advice could be?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the ways after 16 years with this company and even more than that in sales, one of the things that you learn from is your mistakes. So nobody's perfect in their recruiting and hiring process, but I can share some of the things that I've learned along the way. One of them is that you can always coach and teach to the skill sets that you need and the processes that you have in place, but you really need to hire somebody that fits within that culture and then teach the skills and the other things along with that. And along with that, be slow to hire. make sure that you're patient when you're trying to hire. A lot of people really try and hire quickly. They feel like they need to really fill that role in that spot, but you want to make sure that you vet through those individuals, make sure that you have the right people in order to really set them up for success and make them really get in tune with what you're trying to do with your team and your culture quicker if you hire the right person. Another thing that we do that I don't believe that everybody does, but it's something that I would really like people to take note of, is that for every hire, we actually do behavioral testing along with that hire. So you can have a great interview, and we've all known candidates that have been what we would call professional interviewers. They're very good at interviewing, but on the back end, are they really who they say they are and how they're interviewing? So the behavioral testing, where you can go to outside groups, third party companies to do those, that will validate if what you saw in the interview is exactly who they are, and it measures really the DNA of them, what motivates them in and outside of work. What are some of the things that are really important to them, and do their goals align with yours? And you can go through all of that and vet through all of that in testing, and you can either uh, validate that that is the person that you want on your team, or you can also discredit it with some of the things that you find out in the testing that maybe they don't fit in well with the company and with the.
So on the testing side, excuse me, that's
Yeah.
a really good thing because I've heard quite a bit about assessment testing
Yep.
but do you do it before you interview them or after, or does it depend on the person? Do you do
Um,
both?
yeah, we almost always do it after a first interview.
Okay.
So we vet through a lot of the questions. We try and get a feel for and a sense for if that is somebody that we're interested in. And if it is, then it costs. You can pay a fee. You go through that testing process, and then what it's nice for is when you come back for a second interview, you're then able to ask some follow up questions that maybe you want to know from some things that you found in the testing.
Okay. No, that's excellent. So I'm learning more and more about these assessments that focus in on sales specific. So they're
Mhm.
not so much personality testing or assessments. They're more DNA of sales. Is this guy going to be a good salesperson? Do they have the
Absolutely.
capacity and capabilities to be a good salesperson? And what the other thing you mentioned was, I think I got this right, that it's almost better to hire somebody that doesn't have experience as long as they fit the culture, as opposed to a sales professional that's really good at sales but doesn't fit the culture. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, it can be. It probably depends on exactly what you're looking for. If you're willing to, or you have a team set up where you could get somebody that's a little bit more green, that has that ability to really be coached up, and you have the sales manager in place, you have the team in place to help bring that person up and teach them, then absolutely you can hire on the person and the personality. If you have a younger team and you're looking for somebody that is a little bit more seasoned, that has that experience, then you can do that as well. But again, don't only look at the experience. It's good when somebody has experience, but look at who that person is and really what their makeup is first and
Okay.
foremost.
No, that's really good. Now you mentioned again. I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth on this on the behavioral testing. Um, Accountability.
Mhm.
You know, we get the right person, or we think we got the right person, and we've got a team of people. Do you have any kind of accountability system or strategy in place, or do you also use some kind of accountability testing along the way, periodically, every quarter, every 6 months, or however that works? Tell us about your accountability strategy and best practices for your business.
Yeah, so a couple of these would seem pretty basic, but it actually is harder to put it into practice within your company and your team. One of those is to have structured one-on-one meetings with each individual. And what you get is a lot of sales managers will say, well, I connect with that person every day. We talk all the time. We talk all the time about things. But in reality, everybody needs that time one on one with their sales manager to talk not just about opportunities, but maybe issues or concerns that they're having within the team, or something within the company that they want to talk about. they need that time one-on-one to just clear their mind and just go down their hit list of things that they want to talk to the manager. So having those structured meetings, it could be once a week, it could be once a month, whatever you deem appropriate. But to have those meetings one-on-one, to have that time where it's not just always in a group, I think has been very important to our success. Another one of those is from a team standpoint, we do team forecasting meetings each month where we bring the group together. Everybody's numbers are out there of what they did the previous month, what they have in the hopper moving forward, and what are some of the things that they're working on. And we expose their numbers. We put their numbers up there of where they've been and what they're projecting that they're going to be at. And that's a very big accountability tool when you put sales reps in front of their peers because they're motivated to do what? They're motivated to win. And they want to be number one. So nobody wants to put a zero up there. But I just want to give you an example of something that's a little bit more personal one-on-one, but then also an accountability strategy from a group standpoint as well.
No, I'm glad you said that. When you were a salesperson, starting off the bottom, did you look forward to those one-on-one communications with your manager, or was it something that you were reluctant on?
I really liked him. I always enjoyed that one-on-one time. I still enjoy it today. I mean, today now it's a little bit different because I report into the COO, so that's a little bit of a different feel. But I still enjoy him today. I still put together a hit list of 5 to 10 things that maybe I have down on my notes that I want to make sure that I talk to that person about. It's also things you might want to talk to them about that you don't want to talk about in a group setting. So just important to have that time. But does everybody enjoy those? Maybe, maybe not. But personally, I always did. I like to have that time.
And you mentioned also that the time frame once a week or once a month. How do you decide which one of your sales, as a manager, how did you decide which one needs that more frequent attention or more frequent opportunity to have that open door policy where you can communicate and work things out?
Well, I've always managed on an open door policy every day. So I always want to make sure that that interaction was there. From a more one-on-one set of meeting standpoint, I always tried to give everybody equal time within that. I didn't want to give somebody, 2 hours of time and the next person gets 10 minutes. But it really depends on what stage they're on. If it's a newer person and you're going through a lot of training and they're still being brought up to speed, you need to have that one-on-one meeting, whether that's a half hour or an hour. But then I would also set additional times, for training and things like that, aside of that, because you want to just make sure that that one-on-one is just about that and just about them at that time. So I tried to keep those all pretty consistent as far as the time, but that fluctuates a little bit. Different people have different needs at different times.
Okay, great. Yeah, you mentioned the posting the numbers once a month. Nobody likes to be on the bottom.
Right. Nobody does.
That's definitely a motivation.
Yep.
Is that appear to be your most successful motivation idea, or do you have other motivational ideas like rewards or periodic bonuses, or do you throw up so to speak a carrot that people can
Yeah.
stretch for?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that we've really tried to do over the years, and we've enhanced this over time. It wasn't always this way, but we've really tried to put together meaningful sales contests. And I would bold and underline the word meaningful, something that people will be driven to show results to get. And we do those at certain times of the year. It's an annual contest that we put out, but we do ours to end the year in the fourth quarter, and then also to start out the first quarter of the year. And people could do it at different times of the year. But I would tell people to motivate your sales team to drive results in that time of year that makes sense for you in the markets that you're in. But things that we do, we have a lot of them have to do with getaways. It might be a nice little long weekend trip with a day off. It could be a happy hour, or it could be a very nice dinner out with peers. We've mixed up all different types of things, but the ones that have really driven the most results and have been the most meaningful are ones where we include either their spouse or even their family. Because if you include your family in the opportunity of something that you can go get, uh, you will definitely be inspired to try and win that for your family. And there's nothing better than when you tell your child that, hey, we could go have this getaway, and your child asks you about it over and over again. It's very inspiring, very motivating for the salespeople. So once we implemented that, it was something that they wanted to see every year and that they asked for, and it's been great.
So, bringing that up, have you at all given up or put out there your season tickets or one of those games that you hold season tickets for on the Packers?
We have. I don't know that I've ever given my own up, but our company has plenty of seats as well that we have put out there for people. So that is motivating, definitely during the Packer season.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. Okay, so let's talk about for you as a leadership of managers as a vice president. If you can sum up in how you feel, what do you think the most important thing for you, not so much with your salespeople, but with your sales managers? Is it any different than what you've already shared with us today?
So in relationship to me and my sales managers, it's a different coaching. When you're coaching sales managers, you want to make sure that you're talking to them about how to work with their team. And that's always a little bit different. When you're that frontline sales manager, you're working directly with that sales rep. You have communication with them every day. When you're managing the sales managers, you can't jump right to the sales rep. Uh, Once in a while,
Chain
you
chain
might.
of command, right?
It is chain of command. You're exactly right, Harry, and that is a term actually that we use around here. But you're trying to coach your sales managers to, in essence, be good coaches. So you have to make sure that you do use that chain of command. But the biggest thing is really around just constant communication, whether it's with your sales manager or the sales manager directly to their team. One of the things that I always like to make sure that my team is doing and that I show is that daily engagement, not from a micromanagement standpoint, but just from an overall communication standpoint. You want to make sure that you're touching base with your team and that you're staying very engaged. And I like to always treat it as nobody really has titles. We're all just trying to win together. So, what can we all do to help each other to try and win and bring on business? That's really kind of the culture that we've always established.
No, that's good. And it brings me up to the title of our show here is Continuous Sales Improvement for Sales Managers. So, do you have any kind of continuous sales management practices or continuous like Con Ed, like real estate agents have to go through a Con Ed class several hours a year to renew their license, and mortgage brokers the same thing. Lawyers have to do update on the new laws. Do you have a continuing education program, or do you encourage a continuous sales improvement program within your culture?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been very vital to us moving forward as a sales management. We have done it in two ways. One is continuing education conferences that we attend every year. And we make sure that we send the individuals, but we send them with a purpose to try and gain information and then bring it back and share it with the team. So we don't just send people out to a conference and just say, hey, did you have a good time? We send them out there to bring back meaningful information to then help train our teams and maybe bring back something new that we haven't seen before. The other one that I've always been a very, very big proponent of is peer groups. And we are part of a sales manager peer group where you go out and you're talking to the people that are really on the front lines of sales management, like you are every day. And you're swapping best practices. You're talking about what's working and what's not working. And from there, we've really been able to bring back things from our peers that we've implemented in our company. So it's a great information sharing. So I don't know if everybody has that avenue, but that is one that I would definitely put out there for sales managers to search for and look for a peer group in that area.
Okay. And do you do most of that online as far as looking for those peer groups, or is that something that you actually go to like a networking event?
It's a group that we're affiliated with, so
Okay.
it was a little bit easier for us to get into that sales manager peer group. But there are other groups like an MSCA, and those types of groups that also have things like that that anybody can tap into within their markets in their industry.
Well, this has been really, really exciting and enlightening, and I know our listeners are going to really enjoy the best practices that you shared. I just have one last thing that I'm going to give it up to you. Do you have any additional thoughts for best practices on how to encourage people to use those best practices? Give us some final thoughts before we sign off today.
Yeah, I guess a couple of things that I would add on, Harry. From a sales management standpoint, be genuine, be yourself, be open and honest with your people. They'll definitely respond to that. And then another one is, salespeople are inherently competitive. If you're not hiring somebody who really wants to be competitive, probably not hiring the right person. So what I always say is foster healthy competition. So make sure that people are looking over their shoulder a little bit and seeing what their peers are doing and who's got the most, sales calls that week, who's got the best numbers going right now, who's got the most opportunities in the hopper. Those are the types of things that you want your sales individuals to be looking at across the team. And as a sales manager, you shouldn't be afraid to go there and have people seeing some of that. So if you can get people working as a unified team, but at the same time having friendly competition within that team, then you really know that you're really in a healthy space within your team and your company.
Friendly and positive competition is always exciting to be a part of, especially with people that you work with.
You bet.
You strive to be number one. You strive certainly not to, like I said, put that zero on the board. Well, this is exciting. I want to really express my gratitude to you, Wade, for sharing some of these things with us. I know you're a busy guy as the VP of Sales and Marketing for Bassett, and want to thank our audience for tuning in today. And if you have any questions, just feel free to reach out, and we'll get those questions to Wade. Otherwise, Wade, thank you again. Thanks for joining Continuous Sales Improvement for Sales Managers and the Best Practices. And I'll be in communication with you on the side here. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Appreciate you, everybody. God bless. Thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe to get notified of the latest episode. Also, to learn more about improving your sales team, visit continuoussalesimprovement for teams.com. See you in the next episode, and have a great day.